Mhm.
So this is happy Tuesday, happy 2025, so on and so forth. I love that we have some people on the all okay on have their video on, etc. I probably will pop in and of out of SlideShare, etc. Because I enjoy seeing everybody. I know that we made an executive decision to do Zoom only today. Uh, knowing that Calabasas is has the highest alert that you can have regarding, the winds, so on and so forth. So erring on the side of caution. And we are doing it Zoom only today. So thank you all for being here. So today is our 2025 meeting of the first meeting of the year.
It's your welcome to 25 meetings.
It's welcome to 2025. And what's so crazy, I mean, there's so many things to talk about. And, I kept moving, the different topics and stuff all around to figure out what was I going to start with, what was I going to end with, so on and so forth. So what I made the decision to do is we're going to talk about what's going on, right? Because obviously our lives have been affected. Other, people have lost lives, people have lost things, and I'm not. It's the elephant in the room, right? So I don't want to. This is what we're going through in Southern California. So we're going to have discussions around it. We're going to have Chris also speak to what's happening, from a legal standpoint and how we have those conversations with our clients. Um, you know, like I said, please bear with me. I have so many things that I want to make sure that I share with you. And so they're kind of all over the place. I was just brain dumping. So I know we had a rough week to start our new year, right? So our first real work day was Monday, January 6th. And then, oops, here, let me admit all. And then bam, January 7th at 10:25 or whatever time, sometime in the morning, here we are, right? Today is the 8th day that, we have firefighters and, battling the fires, and we have stuff happening, right? And what's crazy is I was been doing a lot of research and doing different things, as I know each and every one of you are as well. It said these devastating blazes will likely be one of the costliest in U.S. history.
Mhm.
Right? The costliest in U.S. history. Yes, I will bring up different things, regarding, and I know a lot of you get the same emails that I get, same notifications, etc. And we'll talk a little bit more in detail regarding, the California Department of Insurance and the different things that they are stating. One, I definitely want to make sure that, I know that we all are beyond grateful for the firefighters, the first responders, the frontliners, etc. So we couldn't here. Actually, let's go here. Deep gratitude for them, right? Because they're doing everything they can, just, especially the circumstances that we had to fight a fight that was almost, feeling like we couldn't we couldn't win, right? Because it was an unusual and crazy circumstances. So with that said, I want to also thank the staff. They showed up, they're here, they're going there. I mean, we all have these we all process this kind of stuff differently. And I know I'm going through like the emotional mindset portion of it, and then we'll also get to the technicality portion of things. But I just want to make sure that we discuss everything that that people are feeling. So, love your family, work super hard, and live your passion. With the things that are happening, we all process events differently, right? I process it different than Tara Lynn. I definitely process it different than Eileen Rodriguez, right? We all process things differently. This last week has been a bit of a blur, and many of us are on a continued state of high alert, literally, right, and figuratively. And what's interesting as sometimes here, I'm going to stop share for a second, that when we go through these things, right, if we didn't physically lose a home or lose a loved one, etc., we're just like, oh, we don't have the trauma. But that's not the case, right? Those people have, their high level of trauma based on the things that they lost. But those of us that weren't physically affected, so to speak, and losing different things, right? We do have that secondary trauma, right? Because we are still living it, we're on edge, so on and so forth. So make sure that you are being graceful and compassionate with yourself. Make sure that if you have different feelings that are coming up, just acknowledge them, right? Just acknowledge what's going on and not trying to dismiss them, because like I said, we all process what's been going on and are affected by it in different ways. And I've been in communication with, most of you regarding this. Some people have had, families affected personally in dealing with that tragedy, and other people have not. So this is also definitely, sorry, I'm just continuing to let people in, something that we can't diminish as far as Southern California. This is part of our life, right? This is part of our life that we deal with these conditions. So I'm just going to read a couple things that I wrote down. Don't forget. And with that said, I want to make sure that you guys stay focused, because really, I know for me personally, right? I can't speak for each and every one of you, what you've experienced, but for me, this last week has been a flippin' blur. Like, oh my God, like I talked to Chris yesterday and he's like, hey, I want to talk about next week. I'm like, next week? What's happening next week? Oh yeah, stuff on the calendar, right? There's stuff on the calendar. So we want to make sure that we don't forget. Yes, we've had some things happening. We want to make sure everyone's safe. So don't forget to keep your 2025 goals in front of you at all times. Yes, we had that bumpy start to 2025, right? It's crazy. But we need to pivot again. Don't allow this tragedy to stop you in your tracks. It can be temporary, to be like, okay, let me understand. Let me make sure that I'm taking place, but make sure that we still stay focused. And do we know exactly what the real estate market's going to be like for the next month, this year in Southern California? Not really, right? It's going to be interesting, and I do have forecasts and stuff to share with you. But it was interesting. The forecasts that I got were received on January 5th and January 26th. So we just have to be very cognizant. I want you all to pay particular attention to Chris and the advice that he is going to be giving to you here shortly, because we have to be compassionate, right? Be compassionate to others always, just not during a time of tragedy or times of this, but always, because no matter what, like right now, we know what everyone's going through in Southern California. But when we have conversations and we ask people things, when we are talking to them, we have no idea what personal tragedies or things that they may be going through. So we want to make sure that we stay compassionate, be empathetic towards our clients at all times, right? Not just during this time. With that said, let me go back and share the screen. Okay, awesome. So y'all can see my screen again? Okay.
Yep.
So with that said, we did send out, Louisa is going to touch upon a bunch of resources and different things. She's been on Zooms, a couple different Zooms this morning, so she'll touch upon that. We sent out an email yesterday regarding the LA wildfire guide and resources. We will continue to build upon this. So please make sure that that you are able to go in there. And if you want to, with these PDFs that we put in there, you can rebrand them for you, right? So you can take this and send to your people. I mean, there's just a wealth of information out there. And then obviously this is being recorded, but I had, in a time of when people are like, okay, it's time to, sometimes we get warnings and sometimes people don't get warnings when we have to evacuate, but really take heed of any evacuation orders. I feel confident. Obviously, I don't know because Mother Nature will do her thing. I feel confident that we're, hopefully on the other side of all of this. But again, we're in Southern California. We deal with this all the time. Malibu just dealt with this, last month in December. So I saw this emergency evacuation, hey, these are things to think about, because when you are in a state of panic and, your fight or flight, you don't realize the things that you need to bring. I know people on here are always prepared, right? They have their earthquake hazard or they have their fire hazard, but these are different things that you can give to your clients. It could be part of your packet of information or whatever. Hey, this is the times in which we live in, so on and so forth, because it's not about being a fear monger. It's just being realistic. Like, hey, this is what I have in the pack. So, we have this 30-minute warning, 1 hour warning, and 2 hour warning. Because like I said, when you're in the midst of it, things can, you can all of a sudden be like, oh shit, what am I supposed to do other than just get out? So again, this team meeting is thank you again for all being on. It's about, just being responsible, because, when we started COVID, right? I remember all the conversations that we had about we're the rock, right? We are the one there for stability. We are the one to ask questions. We are there to make sure that everyone is all good regarding whether it's, is it a right time for me to buy, sell, invest, or is it, we are counselors, we are everything. And then with that said, we have to be very cognizant and aware of the advice that we are giving, right? And Chris is going to go through all of that regarding. So a couple other things I just want to say. I mentioned this before. Most everybody got on. We have 13,000 Keller Williams agents within the affected areas, and we had, out of those 13,000, we had 50 Keller Williams associates displaced. And KW Cares through, that's one of the beautiful things about, Keller Williams, is they had emergency grants up to $40,000 available, emergency grants available to be able to help the 50 that were displaced. So you can feel good knowing that we have such an incredible company that we do work for, to be able to help people in times of need, no matter where they're located. So with that said, I'm going to go back to even more information, but I want to segue into, how we are helping people. Yes, we can donate. Yes, we can have emotional support for them, help them make the right decisions. But from a legal standpoint, it's very touchy. And, I only can imagine the lawsuits that are going to be coming out of this. So with that said, I would love to pass the mic over to Chris to share from a legal standpoint and from the broker point of view how we can best protect you all, our brokerage, and our clients.
Stephanie, real quick, these are great lists. Can you email them to us, please?
Yes.
Thank you.
Of course.
Well, howdy, everyone.
Howdy.
So off the bat, just, my coping mechanism is humor. All right. So I really love what Stephanie had to say. So yeah. So I to keep my sanity, over the years, I try to keep things light so that I don't go cuckoo myself. Okay, so first thing, and this is not funny, this is serious, but I grew up a Los Angeles Rams fan, which as a young boy was very, very, very painful because back in the 70s, we had some of the most amazing teams in the NFL. And for some reason, every year in the playoffs, we'd lose to one of two teams that would keep us from going to the Super Bowl. We'd lose to the Cowboys or we'd lose to the Vikings. We'd lose to the Cowboys, we'd lose to the Vikings. Good news. Well, the bad news is they had to move the game to Arizona. The good news is the LA Rams beat the Vikings last night. So anyhow, and I don't know if any of you watched that, but some of the post-game commentary from Matthew Stafford and others was really much. They haven't played that well all season long, and I really believe that they really did what they did last night as a direct result to help their brothers and sisters cope in this crazy time. So Rams won. So I actually don't have a lot to say, but what I'm hopeful, and it's funny, when I popped on the Zoom, I saw Linda White, and there is something that I love. There's many things I love about Linda White, but one of the things that I love about Linda White, aside from the fact that she's really smart, but she is in a very loving way, very direct. And she knows the concepts and the ideas. She knows her parameters. And now I don't go out with her on appointments, and this is all observation. But Linda does a great job of just telling people not always what they necessarily want to hear, but what they need to hear. Okay. So I think, as Stephanie said, yes, obviously we want to be empathetic to what's going on out there. And I think for everybody that's here today, that's sort of natural. But sometimes in our effort to help, we do more harm than good. So one of the notes that I took is don't unintentionally make a bad situation worse. And I'm going to touch on that a little bit. But I want to also back up to something I had heard years ago at a national business conference for the real estate company I was working with at the time. And Jay Leno was our keynote speaker, and I'll never forget this as long as I live. So Jay grew up somewhere in New York, Manhattan, and I've shared this story with somebody previous. But one of the things that Jay's father taught him was to always be the calmest one in the room. And the example that Jay's father used with young Jay was being in a theater in New York, and ironically, his father always told him, if the theater ever catches fire, here's what he said. He said, Jay, you're going to see people freaking out, running for the exits, trampling each other. And he said, the first thing I want you to do is sit very calmly while everyone else is reacting. And he said, what's going to happen is you're going to be the only one in the room, or in the theater in this case, it's going to be able to see the exit clearly and get out of harm's way. And I really hung on to that. So to the extent we can be the calmest one in the room, that doesn't mean we're robots, we're stoic, we're unemotional. But being the calmest one in the room, because in times like this, and we know this going back to the pandemic and everything, there's what's really happening, and there's sometimes what we hear is happening. So really, really think about that as we go through this. And then, by the way, oh, that's right, we're in residential real estate. Okay. So one of the things that we should have been good at before we got to this point with these fires in this current situation, what we should have been good at it as an industry is being able to look our consumers in the eye at the appropriate times and say to them, your broker doesn't have expertise in that area, and you need to speak to a qualified real estate attorney. Okay. So we should have been good at that before as an industry, and shame on our industry because we've never been very good at that. And I think we have an esteem problem as an industry. Is why? Because we want to have the answers for everything. And I totally get that. But where this comes up, and I've had phone call after phone call after phone call around leases and price gouging. Okay. And in fact, just before this meeting began, I actually received an email late last night. I responded, but she called me this morning and began to ask us a series of questions. And I said, well, Jennifer, I said, here's the deal. I'd love to be able to give you a really nice, tidy answer on that. But what needs to happen is your landlord needs to talk to their own legal counsel to decide what they should or shouldn't do. So going back to don't make a bad situation worse. And as your broker, okay, and this is what I said to Jennifer. I said, I don't want to say anything. I don't want to make your life short-term easy and inadvertently put you in harm's way as an agent. Okay. That would be irresponsible of me. Likewise, as a fiduciary to those clients, we need to have the professional esteem to be able to look them in the eye and say, you know what? We don't have the answer to that. We're going to recommend you speak to a landlord tenant attorney before you move forward. And just to give you an idea on some of the scenarios that I've had, and some of them have already been inked, by the way, which is a little alarming. In one scenario, the original rent amount was $9,000, and the lease was inked at $22,000 a month. Okay. And then some of the other phone calls I've gotten is, well, kind of like, hey, let's get creative. And what's the workaround? There is no workaround, and I'm not going to help you create a workaround. So this is where you need to be a little bit more stoic, a little bit more robotic, a little more straightforward, however you want to say this. You need to look people square ball in the eyeball and say, so, you need to talk to your own legal on that matter. Really important. You probably all know this, but if you were to Google price gouging in California right now, the number of hits. What's the bald guy that runs the real estate company that's on the Netflix show? What's that guy's name? Oppenheimer? What's that guy's name? He's got all the ladies he's running around with. What's that dude's name?
Jason Oppenheimer.
There you go. That's the guy. Don't tell I've never met him, so don't say, hey, our broker says you're like this, bald guy with all the ladies around. Maybe I should shave my head. No, I've got one lady I love. I don't need a shaved head. So he literally, there was a Yahoo News yesterday, and he literally said in writing to the press that there is price gouging galore going on in Los Angeles right now. Okay. Now, by the way, I've always picked on that Netflix show, but actually that's probably a very real statement from a real estate broker. So what we don't want to do is, you don't want to put yourselves in harm's way, and you don't want to inadvertently put your client in harm's way. Because if we do that, that's where we get sued. And by the way, on this, not only are there financial penalties, but there's also potential. You get to wear orange for a little while. Okay. So I know sometimes these things aren't emotionally satisfying, but we have to know what we know, and we have to know when we have to say, sorry, I got to point you in another direction. One of the things that's come up on a lot of the calls I've had is, and this is just happened on this one. Well, it was going to be $9,000 a month, and now some of the other comparables are already higher than this. So what do I base fair market on? Because this particular property has not been on the market. Okay. So what I'm saying to people, and by the way, I'm not a legal expert on this. So that's why we're saying you got to talk to an attorney. I've been talking to our attorneys. You know what our attorneys have been saying? Tell your agents they got to talk to their clients. I've talked to their attorney. Okay. But look, at the end of the day, it's very clear that the intent of these provisions, these emergency orders in the price gouge, it's very clear that the intent of that is to stop the free market from functioning as it otherwise would. And you need to hear this. The intent is to stop the free market from functioning right then and there. Okay. Because the scenario is, well, but Chris, I had a call yesterday morning from an agent. Hey, my tenant got it, 19 bidders, and they got it way over. I'm like, oh God. So whether you have the tenant side or the other side, you need to tell them to talk to their own legal counsel. You need to make sure they understand that there is a price gouging issue that's going around. And at the end of the day, we can't prevent them from doing something, but we need to have the conversations and we must document them in writing. Because when the you know what hits the fan, and trust me on this, it will hit the fan on this. I just said to our agent, I could start shopping around the market right now, not get a property, and bring a claim against somebody for price gouging. And my argument would be, and I said this to Stephanie yesterday, and then Jeff Kahn confirmed this, it's not even necessarily the person who got the property, it's the other 18 that didn't, who are disgruntled, that got price gouged out and they didn't get the property. So they're going to bring a claim. And then, by the way, if you go to the Department of Real Estate website, they're talking about it. It's literally everywhere. So you're best to err on the side of caution. You're best to, and I know this is sacrilege what I'm about to say next. You're better off walking away from a deal than you are closing a deal and having a huge repercussion. So I implore you, I urge you to just get really comfortable saying you need to talk to a qualified landlord tenant attorney on this matter, because it's a whirling dervish out there.
Yeah.
Susie?
Hi, Chris. Thanks for the details. And I'm very clear about the lease situation, but I'm very worried about the sellers because I just got my offer denied right now. And that's going to be a big issue. My offer was 21-day close, no loan, no appraisal contingency, inspection 7 days. The seller is wanting more than asking. And that's going to be tough. And the agent's like, I understand, Susie, your offer is super strong. And I know he's not going to, I mean, the listing agent was with me. He's not going to get his price, but because of the fire situation, now I can't do anything about it. So we're worried about that because that's where our main commission is on buying and selling.
Yeah, no, trust me. So look, again, I just did a presentation at my local MLS, and I went through my rich history as Yoda, as Tara Lynn likes to say about me. And at the very end, well, here's what I said. Oh, and by the way, I'm in real estate with y'all. So no, trust me. When I say I get that 100%, I get it 100%. So I'm going to diverge off for a second being a broker. I'm going to go a little bit into a coach thing, and I'm going to dovetail a little bit onto what Stephanie said. So, we can't fix any situations, but we can be there for our people. Right. So when you begin, and I love what Stephanie said, because this is the challenge when we get into these situations. Some people, again, you get this fight or flight mechanism. Some are out, they're out knocking doors trying to go get more business. And others are going, oh my gosh, I couldn't even imagine. So it's really trying to figure a way to continually to do your business, and this is under the category of don't make a bad situation, where do your business, be empathetic to people and situations. But this is, unfortunately, a good time to really just to check on people. You don't have to have a real estate conversation, but making sure that they're safe, making sure they're okay, listening to them, so on and so forth. Because if you've been good at being in relationship, and this is the key, if you've been in relationship with your people in your database, in your sphere of influence ongoing, this is a natural, hey, Linda, I just want to check on you, see how you're doing. Right? No real estate, no nothing, right? But they know you're there to help them buy and sell, but they also know you're there to bring them, a blanket, a cup of coffee, a meal, a gift card, whatever the case may be. So yeah, Susie, I totally get it. From a business perspective, we needed this to start the year in real estate, like we needed a proverbial hole in the head, right? I mean, it's like, yeah. So, but we can only do what we can do. You be the calm one in the room when everyone's saying, "Oh my gosh, sky's falling." You say, yeah, it's not easy. It won't be easy. And now, what can I do about it? What action can I take today to brighten somebody else's day? That's kind of the mindset that I would be in, which I know all of you are in already. But if we can do that, not in a Pollyanna sort of way, but no, a real like, hey, and just be the breath of sunshine when you're out and about, knowing that it's, we weren't in an easy market before we got to January 7th. And so it's going to require that much more intentionality of all of us, stick-to-itiveness, so on and so forth. All right. So hang in there, Susie. And practice smiling. Hi.
Okay, let's
When
see
I
what
get,
we have in the chat. Does anyone know if the tenant who had to evacuate can come to the landlord later and ask for compensation for the cost of hotel he had to pay, or basically for not being able to use his home for the night he had to evacuate, ask for money back?
this is where I start to loop, and it's not because I'm crazy. Qualified landlord, tenant, attorney, and or here's the reality. There is so much information on the internet. Okay. So my simple answer is I don't know, and I know enough to get myself in trouble. So sometimes I got to bite my own lip. But if there was insurance of the homeowner and or the tenant, or maybe both, the first thing I would do is I would check my own policy around what coverages I have. For example, if I owned a property, I'd check to see what I have for loss of use. I would be on the phone with my insurance company and say, what do I have for loss of use? My tenant's asking me for money back. Do I have any coverage for things like that? But again, at the end of the day, you're going to be in the business of deferring those questions to the people that can give them not just an answer, but the correct answer. And I want to remind you that a few months ago when I did a Zoom, and if you remember, I went through the SBSA, the statewide buyer and seller, and I read paragraph after paragraph. And at the end of every paragraph, in the forms we have our clients sign, it literally says, your broker does not have expertise in this area. It's literally in every paragraph on every freaking page. So whether we say we don't like that part about it, but it's actually we have very little. Hey, as it turns out, we get paid really well when we sell properties, and as it turns out, we have very little expertise in anything. And by the way, they sign forms that actually say what I'm saying. So I'm not making this up. So as crazy as this sounds, remind yourself of the expertise that we don't have. And this is what I'm going to say next is going to sound funny, but that is our expertise. Okay.
Yeah.
There's a question about insurance.
Yeah. Denise, you have a question?
Yes.
Hey.
Hi. Okay. I'm in an escrow right now, and I'm in day, what am I in? Day 11. And the inspection contingencies were 10 days, but thank God I did leave the insurance contingency to 17. Now everything looked good. They got most of the insurance on Tuesday of last week, the day the fire started. However, the house is up in the hills. It is south of the 101, overlooking the Las Virgenes Canyon off Liberty Canyon. And there's a moratorium now on the California Fair Plan, which was the only fire insurance his family could get. Their contingency is over on Monday. The sellers are already putting us under a lot of pressure. And I wanted to know what happens in a situation like this. If they don't want to give us an extension, then what? The whole escrow gets canceled? Because the whole state has a moratorium until the Palisades fire with this property is 90% contained.
Yeah. So first of all, I really love this question because here's how I'm going to answer this. And again, this goes to our practices as an industry, not you as an agent specifically, but our industry has some very poor practices, which are prompted by very poor understanding of what the agreements, i.e. the RPA, that is the rules of the game between the two parties in the first place. Okay. So I'm actually going to unpack this a little bit to talk about, let's say we were having this discussion 3 weeks ago. So the first question is, what happens, and we've talked about this before. So when you get to these contingency removal periods in a contract, what is a buyer's options? That's the first question that we need to be asking ourselves. What's the buyer's options? And we need to make sure that our buyer understands that they don't have to just automatically sign that, remove the contingency. And the bad practice that's been established in our industry oftentimes is a transaction coordinator will just fire off a removal, a buyer will sign it, and they've removed their contingencies. But when you get to those magical dates, a buyer has options. One is do nothing and wait and see if they give you a notice to perform. Okay, because the seller can't do anything contractually until they've delivered a proper notice to perform. And by the way, that only gives them the right to cancel. Okay, it doesn't say they are canceling.
Mhm.
So this is where it's really important as we're counseling our clients, and it can get a little bit dizzying for them too, but you've got to explain to them when they get to that point. So for example, when we practice, when we represent a buyer, when we start approaching those magical days, we've already had a conversation with them early on, but we explain to them in an email that when we get to this day, you have some options. Buyer, one is do nothing. Two is remove the contingency. Three is attempt to renegotiate the contingency period. Okay, so part of this is going to be predicated on how you've prepped your buyer, and then what the seller, what do they want to do to enforce the terms of the contract or not. Okay, so I hope that makes sense. So it's making sure that all this should be ongoing, that our buyers understand that just because the day is here, it's day 14 or 17, you're not just arbitrarily and have them sign it, sending it off, boom, contingency is gone. Okay.
I would never do that. I mean,
No, I
I
know.
want to protect these clients. Of
Perfect.
course. I just want to make sure that if the moratorium is still going on Monday, it doesn't seem like these sellers are going to give us an extension on that.
So, and they may or may not. And I one of the things that I say to our people a lot, we'll cross that, we'll cross that bridge if we get to it.
Okay.
And again, every seller out there is going to have a different mindset. Some are going to be, I don't care about any stinking fire. I want this damn house closed. And some are going to go, hey, I get it. I mean, let's work with these people, right? And I'm not going to say either is good, bad, right, or wrong, but just like we're all different, people are going to navigate through this. Some are going to go, gee, I feel so bad for them. Let's hang out. Let's see what we can do to work together. And some might be more like, I ain't going to do it, right? So again, this even goes to how we how we communicate with the other agent, because as we know, sometimes what can happen is when agents start doing this, and I know you don't do that, but sometimes agents start going, well, you're doing this. No, our clients are the ones that are making the decisions. All we are is the messenger as to what's going on. So, my hope for your client is that the sellers maybe errs on the empathetic side, and the seller still wants to sell and the buyer still wants to buy, and everything's happy go lucky.
So
Thank you.
Denise, it's Linda. Is this a loan? Do they have a loan?
No, it's all cash.
Oh, okay. So they could make that choice if they wanted to, your buyer.
Yeah, but they don't want to pay over $2.6 million for a house and then not have fire insurance.
I understand. I was trying to give you another out, but
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
So this is I'm so glad you brought this up. This is a really great time to either educate or re-educate, as boring as this might sound, our clients as to what the contract actually says, right? And what their rights and obligations are under the contract.
Thank you.
You bet. Now, the other question that came up was around deposits. Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
I want to touch on deposits for a quick second, because the question becomes, well, who gets, I think the scenario was, well, they've removed all their contingencies. However, this thing happened and blah, 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 blah. Is the seller going to be able to keep the deposit, or is the buyer going to be able to keep the deposit? And here's the real simple answer. And again, the top of the cancellation form says what I'm going to say. So again, this is not my opinion. It says your broker does not determine who gets the deposit. It says that. It says it prettier than I just said. But the form itself says your broker can't determine if it's the seller or the buyer. And by the way, if your broker can't determine it and you're not sure as the buyer or seller, what should you do as a buyer or seller? Who can give me that answer except for Linda White? Linda, you can't answer. Ding, ding, ding. Somebody say it. What do we tell them to do?
Attorney.
There you go. Talk to an attorney. Boo, 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 boo. The forms say all this. Okay. So it's really important. So this is so let me say it this way. If we weren't extra grounded in the basics and fundamentals in the contracts and our disclosures and what all this stuff says coming into this thing, I'm going to tell you what, this is the time to frigging know what this stuff says. And by the way, in the real estate purchase agreement, it's when it talks about breach of contract, it says that if basically, and I'm paraphrasing now, it says that if the buyer basically removes all their contingencies and doesn't close, here's what it says. It says that may be a breach of contract. The word shall is not in the contract. Okay, so understand when we get into this deposit discussion, well, the forms we use already say we can't tell you. It literally says that in bold at the top of the form. And the RPA itself, the real estate purchase agreement, says that if the buyer's removed all their contingencies and doesn't perform, that may constitute a breach of contract. It does not say shall. And the reason is because there are other civil codes that govern this initial deposit. And I think we have a wonderful young lady from a title company here. So I think the escrow holders call it EMD still, but the contract says initial deposit. That's why I keep using that vernacular. So so the initial deposit, we've never known who gets it. That's what the form says. We can make a little bit of an educated guess, but in a time such as this, courts in California, I guarantee you, are going to be very lenient and very liberal toward the real estate consumer in the transaction. And in California, the real estate consumer is considered to be the buyer, not the seller. So everything is skewed in favor of buyers in the state of California. It's skewed in favor of tenants in the state of California. Okay. So don't say, oh yeah, too bad, so sad, you're going to lose that deposit, because when they sign that cancellation form, if it's CAR form, it actually says your broker can't determine that. They don't have expertise in this area. You need to talk to a qualified real estate attorney. That's what, so again, this isn't, as I keep telling you, this isn't Mr. coming down from the mountaintop, Chris Vogt, broker smarter than everybody. No, I'm really merely a conduit to regurgitate to you what you're having your clients already sign. I'm giving you language that's already there. And that's all you need to do is bring that language to life for your customers. It's always important, but in times of trial and tribulation, like we're all going through right now, it's more important than ever that we are really confident in our skin and our ability to say, here's the best course of action. Okay. Repeat after me. I don't know. Broker can't give you advice. Okay.
Yeah.
How should I hold title? Oh, you should do it this way. No, you shouldn't tell them that. So again, these things all transcend where we're at now. So there's nothing new here except for January 7th, the whole world got turned upside down. So it's taken the situation that we've been in as an industry and it's made it worse, because now people are going, oh my gosh, what do I do? We got to talk to an attorney. Oh my gosh, what do I do? We got to talk to an attorney. But that was the case before in many situations. Our industry just does not do a very good job of doing that and saying that. So I'm a little extra fired up today because I did a presentation this morning and I got really geeked up and it was really awesome. So I'm like, woo, let's keep going. I'll be dead by 5 o'clock today.
No,
All right,
and I know. Thank you, Chris. I'm going to make a comment and then we'll address Jeff Landau. But I know so many of the agents, they just have that, like you said, they just have that need to give the answer, right? So it's going to be a new practice for each and every one of us to be like, hey, you know what? Especially with the severity of everything at this moment, right?
Yeah.
Is you really, really, really need to speak to your real estate attorney regarding this. So I know it's a new vernacular, a new phrase for y'all to say, but it will protect you in the long run.
Yeah,
Okay.
I told the group this morning, and we weren't talking about the fire specifically, but I and again, I've been doing this, this is year 34 for me now. I am so comfortable as an experienced broker, in theory, should know it all, whatever it can be. I am so comfortable saying, you know what? Great question. I don't have the answer to that. In fact, that's outside the scope of my broker's license. I can give you a couple of names to qualified legal counsel if you don't have them now. You just got to get real comfortable with that.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Okay. Jeff Lando asked, confirming gouging doesn't apply with a sale.
Not that I'm aware.
Thank
Okay.
you. Just wanted to make sure.
Yeah. Yeah. So I was, so here's a funny little thing. So before the fires and the state of emergency was declared, do you all know that we were already under a state of emergency for the bird flu? And that was issued the middle of last month for the entire state. So we were under this prior, but this got exacerbated obviously because now suddenly people are saying, "Hey, I don't have a house, I need a place," and there you go. Let's
So
see. Go ahead.
do have a couple,
Civil code. That's fine.
no, Fred, we can work on a list for you. We'll contact our attorneys regarding landlord tenant attorneys as well. And then if anybody,
yeah, they were all given the name, and we can provide it again. But for anybody that was on the thing with Jeff Kahn, he gave a couple of names, and I have those. In fact, as you're talking stuff, I'll pull them up here right quick. Let's see here. I got my forward.
so as you're doing that, I'm just going to address the other one. Obviously, none of us regarding where do you think the real estate market's heading? Obviously, we have no crystal ball, and there's been significant changes. What they were saying this is what they were saying prior to January 7th, right? And for the state of California, right? We're just going to have to figure out what this is going to look like in Southern California and the affected areas. But it did state that the real estate industry in California in 2025 is expected to see increased activity with more home sales and higher prices, right? They predict, right? Anything can change at any moment, but predict a 10.5% increase in single family home sales in 2025. And the median home price in California is projected to rise by 4.6%. So property values may increase in high demand areas, which now, there's going to be this dance here in Southern California. But so that's just what the California Association of Realtors stated prior to last Tuesday. And again, that was specific to the state of California and not specific to NorCal or SoCal or anything like that. So anything you want to add to that, Chris?
Yeah. So here's what I'm going to say. If you do them, so forget what we think the market's going to do or not going to do. And I think it's important that we, obviously, as real estate professionals, that we understand, what the trend is for pricing, what the trend is for supply and demand equation, blah, 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 blah. With that said, there are different segments of what's the market going to do. Okay. So for most sellers, for, probably what year is this? So, not quite a decade, but for quite some time now, sellers have been in the driver's seat with just going up, prices going up, going up, going up. So if you were to ask any seller, well, hey, how's the market? Sellers would go, oh my gosh, it's unbelievable, right? It's like I'm making money like left and right. So if you ask a buyer, well, how's the market? You're like, oh, golly, it's tough sledding out there, right? So then you might ask an owner operator of a real estate company, well, how's the market? You might ask an agent or a board, hey, how's the market? So here's the unfortunate reality. It was good news, bad news. So the good news, if you're in the top percentile, it doesn't matter because it's, you know, it's the old 80-20 rule in the first place. But the math for our industry in general, and I don't care, you can take the hottest market in history, the math for the average agent is never good. Okay. So if you look at the transactions per agent in the hottest market, most units, blah, 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 it's not real good. Okay. So the reality of it is, whether it's a hot market, cold market, whatever the case may be, for those who earn a living, whether it's an owner operator or an agent, what matters is how many clients use an individual agent can obtain. That's really all that matters. It doesn't matter if the market's, you know, oh, great, the market doubled, but I did, you know, one transaction. Counter is, oh, the market in theory is terrible, but I did, you know, 65 transactions. The only reason I bring it up that way is you want to pay attention to a point about what's going on. But most importantly, and this is what I said to the group earlier this morning, if you're going to win, if you're going to cheat the numbers, so to speak, in your favor, there's one simple serum or cure, and it's called prospect. Prospect more. Prospect more. So the tougher the conditions, the fewer the units out there, the more incumbent upon the agent to make sure that they have a good touch program with their people, that they have a really good you know, a really good GPS. So they actually, when they wake up every morning, particularly when there's devastation going on, that you have the energy to go out and lead generate. You have the energy to go out on high quality appointments. You have the energy to have great conversations, better conversations, more conversations, answer questions and objections, so on and so forth, because those are the ones that are going to win in this market. Because if you ask me, without running any fancy numbers, the total number of units in 2025 isn't going to be life-saving for any individual agent. It's just not. So what I would advocate is you really go after it more and harder than you ever have in your career, if this is the business we truly want to do. So that's what I have to say about that.
Yeah. Yep, absolutely. Thank you, Chris, because we have, you know, I know we're, you know, there's a lot of stuff to cover, but there's certain things that I want to point out regarding, you know, focusing on 2025. I just briefly touched upon it, you know, at the beginning, just saying, hey, make sure you we've all been in this whirlwind for the last week. So let's make sure that you pull those goals out and get back to your schedule and yep. Making sure that you're still focusing on you, right? Taking care of you and all that good stuff that we've spoken about forever. I do want to, before we get out of the SoCal stuff and we start really focusing on, you know, 2025 and what I picked 4 words as kind of a focus for 2025. But some of you, I want to bring up what's happening in LA regarding the lending aspect of it. Because if there are challenges in a escrow regarding lending, etc., the main thing is speak to the lender. And Andres sent out an email to everybody earlier this week, I believe. Andres, are you there?
I'm here.
Okay. If you can share with us and just give them, you know, pointers on what to be aware of and what's out there.
Sure. I think a lot of lenders right now are a little gun shy, right? We don't know where the fires are going. They're waiting to figure out what the impact's going to be. There also is a concern around the economic impact to the Los Angeles area, specifically the west side, right? What's going to happen with jobs and investment and all of that. So some lenders are withholding the funding, right? So if you're near a fire area, they're not funding those loans. So I'd say if you're anywhere near it in a warning area, to call the lender to make sure that everything's on track, to make sure that they got a clear to close, that there aren't any issues. So, last thing you want is a last minute no from the bank. I am meeting with various agencies to, kind of figure out what we're going to do next as far as lending. It's being coordinated by the California Office of Emergency Services. A lot of us lenders are kind of sitting there talking with the SBA, with the LA Chamber of Commerce, the LA EDC, to coordinate all the services financing, special financing for the recovery effort. I'm particularly talking with 2 large banks that will be providing jumbo and super jumbo construction loans at favorable rates and structure. I also have the 203H ready to go if anybody needs that FHA emergency disaster facility. Although I think a lot of the Palisades, area may not qualify for that, since the limits are FHA limits, so they're a little bit lower. But we are talking with the governor's office, trying to figure out what resources we can deploy, raising capital through debt funds, working with private credit. So trying to figure out what all the resources are, and I'll let you guys know as soon as there's specific programs are approved and ready to be released. But with that, I'll be able to take any of your questions.
Yeah, does anybody have any questions as it relates to the lending side of our industry for Andres?
Can you hear me?
Yes. Hi, Lexi.
Hi. I hope everybody's safe. My question is there any sort of program out there for people who have lost their homes? I've seen like some random things, but nothing seems totally legit. I'm just wondering if there's anything out there for people who have lost their homes, who do have a mortgage, for them to have some kind of assistance, or where they go from there, since they can't usually afford 2 mortgages.
Right. Yeah, and that's one thing that we're looking at, because to take on a new mortgage, right, you're going to have 2 mortgages basically. So we're trying to figure out with the insurance carriers what, that assistance is going to be, how soon they're going to make those payments. Is the existing bank going to defer the interest given that the collateral's gone? So we're kind of working through all those details through the governor's office to figure out how that's going to work. There's also the issue of insurability, right? So even though I do have a 203H product ready to go, a construction loan, lenders aren't going to fund that unless there's fire insurance. So we don't know yet what's going to happen, during the recovery, whether the insurance carriers will insure those properties in those same locations. So we're waiting also for confirmation there. So a lot of details are up in the air. We just need to know how things are going to shake out with the funds, with the insurance, and what even the construction parameters are going to be, right? So the city of LA needs to be involved there to give us some guidance in what those are. I've heard that they're loosening up some restrictions on the rebuild. So as far as the coastal management and that kind of thing, but we're just waiting to hear all the details, which is again why we're all coordinated with the governor's office. But I'll keep everybody abreast. I mean, right now, what I can offer, there are some construction loans I can offer. There are the 203H, like I said, but the big question mark is that property going to be insured, right? Even during the rebuilding process, is it going to be insured? There's also a concern around cost of construction, right? So we're talking about thousands of homes. So what's going to happen to the price of lumber? So if we're going to do a construction loan, what's going to be the cost overrun here, right? So you may ask me for $1 million, but with so much demand for lumber, is that $1 million going to turn into $1.5 million? Also working through those details. So a lot to cover on our side, but again, I'll keep you guys abreast of how things evolve.
Thank you.
No, I appreciate. Yeah, thank you, Lexi. Thank you, Andres. Yeah, did you all hear? One of the times when Governor Newsom was talking, saying it's probably going to be about 6 to 9 months of recovery before we can even start rebuilding. Is that what you're hearing too, Andres?
That is what I'm hearing. I mean, and that's, I think, if they get very aggressive about it. So, yeah, I mean, I'm also kind of thinking about the interest rate market. So a 30-year on average, right? The Freddie Mac average as of last week is 6.93%. That's the average kind of nationwide. The 52-week average is 6.73. So we're above the 52-week average. We think it's going to continue to rise. We had some good news from the economy, right, which kind of makes us think that the Fed's not going to lower interest rates, pushing those longer term interest rates up. So we're watching that interest rate outlook. And so kind of factoring that into the cost of capital for, these construction loans and rebuilding, what is that really going to cost these people and how much support we need to provide?
Wow. Yeah. We're still in the midst of it. So everything is so fluid. And thank you for that. Jimmy asked, are public adjusters a good resource for victims? I don't know the answer to that. Anyone?
What's the question?
Says, are public adjusters a good resource for victims?
I don't know what a public adjuster is, so.
I can tell you what the opinion of an insurance person that we listened to yesterday said on that. He said that his recommendation would be to go through the insurance carrier's adjuster first, because there's no cost to that. And they should, and hopefully will, do a fair job. If it's felt that they're not doing a fair job, then you can consider going to a public adjuster. But then, you will bear some cost for that.
But also people go to the public adjusters because they get you more money. That's why insurance companies don't like them. I used to work in the disaster restoration industry, and insurance companies don't like them at all.
Wow. Interesting.
Hey,
Thanks.
hey, Steph, Omid had a question in the chat I want to just address. So the question is, if a lease listing price is within or below the 10%, blah, 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 and a tenant offers above the 10%, okay? So this is where this thing is, it's very clear. So the answer, Omid, and everybody listening, if it's, so again, if you get 10 bidders suddenly and it gets bid up, again, the intent of these orders is to stop the free market from operating. Okay, so the simple answer to the question, yes, your client should speak to qualified legal counsel on that issue, because just because a tenant in this case wants to partake in price gouging, which they won't get in trouble for. The tenant won't get in trouble for this, by the way, but the landlord is subjecting themselves to price gouging, because again, what's happening is the free market is kicking in, which is causing the price to get bid up. The whole purpose, this is really important to understand this concept. The whole purpose of these orders is to freeze the free market from happening during times of disaster. They don't want things being bid up. That's why they put these in. So just because somebody says, "Oh, I'll pay $22,000 a month instead of $9,000," because that was the landlord's question. Well, gee, I didn't ask them for it. They're offering it to me. And this is going to sound weird, but the order's saying, nope, that can't happen. So yes, Omid and others, they need to, when you get anything that's crossing that threshold or even close, you need to recommend and then document in writing to talk to qualified counsel. If their counsel says, don't worry about it, and that's what they tell you, then you follow up with an email and said, hey, Joe, great chatting with you. Glad you talked to your attorney. As we discussed, you indicated your attorney said you're good to go. Obviously, this is outside of the expertise of our area, blah, blah, blah. Go ahead. But you've documented with your client that what needs to happen. Because I had 3 calls literally yesterday. One was from Calabasas Market Center, and the winning tenant, 19 contestants, and the agent was like, yeah, they went way over. So we have to make people aware of the price gouging rules. If the parties decide to ignore the rules because they want it, whatever, knock yourself out. We just do not want to, and we need to make sure that you're documenting it in writing. And the easiest way to document it is writing, and we do this all the time in our practice. I say, I have a conversation with Stephanie. After we have the conversation and we see eye to eye, I look at him and I say, hey, Steph, just so you know, I'm going to send you a little love note as a follow-up, just confirming our conversation. So look forward to that email. I don't surprise him with a confirming email. I say, here's what's going to happen next. I say, here's what our practice is. Here's what our practice is.
Yep.
Documentation will keep you out of court. Again, that's another fundamental that transcends this current circumstance. The amount of documentation in a file, on a typical file, should be far greater than it currently is in our industry. Because when you go to court and litigation, I sat on a mediation last week for, I don't know, seemed like 20 hours, but I guess it was only 4 hours. But our agent got eaten alive.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, Chris. Andres, did you have something you're going to add?
Yeah, so just kind of going back to the adjuster thing. So I'm seeing a lot of fraud in the lending space. So, these victims are being contacted and they're saying, apply now, we'll get you a really low interest rate. It's, XYZ nonprofit. And it's just a scam to get their information. So be mindful of that. Same thing with the adjusters. I know that the DA put out notice about adjusters, that there's a lot of scams right now with them. It's also with insurance policies. So just be careful with, the providers that your clients work with, because it may be fraud.
Yeah, thank you for that. Yeah, it's just unfortunate when things like this happen, that the really bad people come out. So just bear with us. We probably have about another 15 minutes at most, I would think. So I appreciate everyone's communication, everyone's questions, and just being here as our community for us. Okay. I'm going to go to Jessica with First American. She didn't know I was going to do that. And then we're going to go to Christine Wheeler. Hey, Jessica, is there anything that you want to share with the group? Great to see you.
Hi, good to see you. Hi, everyone. Happy New Year. It's an unfortunate start to the year, but I hope this is the worst of it, right? It's onward and upward once we get past this. But I just posted, I made a resource guide. It's pretty extensive. So if I can send that to anybody, you're welcome to share that with your clients. I know your brokerage made a fantastic one as well, but I'm here to be a resource. I did see that the IRS is offering some tax relief and extensions through October. So I thought that was positive news. I haven't seen a whole lot of posting about that. So that might be something positive to post about in light of all this. That includes 1031 exchanges. 1031 exchanges are offering, the IRS is offering extensions on those. I have some information on that. If I can send that over to anyone, just shoot me a message or a text, call me, email me anytime. I'm always here to help you guys and here for all your title questions. Stay safe.
Thank you, Jessica.
Thank you.
Okay, going back to the resources. So as I mentioned earlier, and then we'll finish the slideshow and then answer any additional questions that you may have. We will update our resources that we sent out yesterday to include the attorneys, to include whatever additional information that we have. And then also, as you know, we did send out in that email as well a spreadsheet that was started. I don't know who the originator of the spreadsheet is regarding rentals that are available, but we just want to be mindful about that. And Christine Wheeler wanted to give you all some additional information on that shared spreadsheet.
Thanks, Deb. I'm just going to make it really quick because we know we're on a time limit. So there was something that came up on that spreadsheet. I really want everyone just to vet it before you give that to anybody or, calling on it. It's not a Keller Williams agent. I called on something that's in my neighborhood in Westlake, and has been renting, $4,000, had it up for $10,000, wrong address, a bunch of things. Wasn't even the address. There was no such address in that community because I live there. I know exactly what it is. So I called the agent. And she wasn't even aware it was the wrong address. I looked her up on DRE. She hasn't done one deal. Okay. And when I called her, she said, oh, we're taking the photos today. And she reached out to me after my call because she had my cell number and said she made a mistake. It's not going to be 10,000. It's going to be 13,000. So, I mean, it's 3-4 times the price. And so just saying is when it came from, we got it. I don't know where we got the list, but I was like upset about it for that aspect. So just want you guys to know, hopefully most of those are legit or the right thing, but, just really vet it out and be careful.
Awesome. Thanks, Christine. I appreciate it. Yeah, so just be mindful. There's going to be a lot of different things that are out there. So just be mindful, vet the information, so on and so forth. And remember, we are, as Chris had mentioned, we want to push people to the resource instead of telling them. So like Angela had something about the insurance company. So the California Department of Insurance announced it is issuing a mandatory 1-year moratorium on insurance renewals and cancellation for homeowners impacted by the Southern California wildfires, etc. CAR is doing a good job at sending out resources, additional information. But when it comes to, so instead of answering the question for your clients regarding the insurance, just send them to the website. It's insurance.ca.gov, right? Insurance.ca.gov, so they can put their zip code in and they can figure it out. But there's, so many different resources out there regarding insurance. And remember, this is all going to be fluid. We're going to do our best to keep you all apprised of everything that is going on. And then also each and every one of you, please thank you, Monique, please let the, reach out to me, the office, etc. if there's some additional information that you have that you feel that's imperative that we need to get out to everybody, because we are, we're all in this together. We are a united front as always. With that said, here we're going back here. So any more questions for Chris before we move on?
And by the way, just so you know, I'm on a Zoom with CAR at 1:30 on a lot of these topics, because everyone is roughly in the same boat trying to figure out some of these things as we navigate further. So as always, I take copious notes. I'll get those out to you and update you with any clarity on anything. So that's my goal in all this.
Awesome. Thank you, Chris. We appreciate you immensely. Remember, do your care calls. This is an amazing time to reach out to people and just say, hey, just checking in. Are you okay? Right? It doesn't have to be about real estate. It's just the care calls. And remember, keep in mind, we can only control what we can control. Right? So back to, with all that said, Happy New Year. Happy New Year. It's new. It's 2025, and we started with a bang, right? It's just like, okay. So remember, keep in mind, it is, we're always going to have these things that are taking place. We either have things that we're dealing with personally, or from our family, or our friends, or our community, our region, SoCal, NorCal, the world, whatever. There's always something. So remember, we have to be very conscientious about what we're focusing on and what we are, allowing to take us off track for a moment. So I just want to make sure that as all you are staying safe and being prepared, so on and so forth, make sure that you keep those goals in front of you. So these are the words that just, we're looking at thriving in 2025. And professionalism was one of the things that I would love. These are the 4 things I would love all of us to focus on at a high level. Professionalism. Be the expert. You are that transaction management. You are there to take care of your agents. Show up at a high level, especially right now. We've always been talking about the cream rises to the top. And I know our Calabasas agents, we have the utmost professionals in our office. We are very grateful. And during this time when there's going to be some shady characters out there, you guys will even be able to shine at a higher level. Perseverance, just being consistent and persistent, just keep doing the things that you need to do on a daily basis to get where you want to be. and be passionate about it. Be passionate about your goals. Be passionate about the industry that you have chosen to be in. And then also have that grace and that patience with yourself and with others as you are continuing to grow your business and be that, just living your life at a high level. Focus on action, emphasize taking steps towards your goals today to prepare for a better tomorrow. Remember, action is the only truth. This is something that I have stated for years, and I will continue to have that mantra. The positive mindset, embrace the fresh start a new year brings and believe in your ability to achieve your dreams. Have that positive mindset the moment that you wake up and the moment you go to bed. Obviously there can be some other things that are in the midst of it, but just start your day with positivity, end your day with positivity. What are the great things that happen? And then overcoming doubt. Don't let the uncertainties hold you back. I know there are some people on this call right now, or they're feeling doubtful, being uncertain, being, going, oh my God, what if, etc. Don't let those hold you back. Remember, one of the things that Gary Keller always talks about is the buffalo, right? Charge the storm. You charge the storm and you get through it much faster. You just take that first step. Real estate in California 2025, I already brought that up. We are still bringing, amazing people into our Keller Williams family. Ross, Victoria, Yurit, Sonia, John Hale, Daniil. So congratulations and welcome. Woohoo! You got into real estate at the right time. So welcome, and we're here to support you each and every way. And I'm super excited to announce the ALC 2025. We have our members that are staying with us. So that's Eileen and Alan, Roger and Louisa and Linda White. I can't thank you all enough for the years that you've been in the ALC with me and Keller Williams Calabasas. And super excited to welcome Christine Wheeler back. She took a year off. So thank you, Christine. Just love your dedication, your commitment. And I am more than thrilled for Lynette and Monique to be our new members. This is their first time being on the ALC. I feel privileged and honored to have them and to have each and every one of our people. So again, Roger Horn, thank you for coming back. Louisa, thank you. Linda, thank you. Eileen, and then Alan, thank you for coming back. And then our new peeps, Christine, Lynette, and Monique. So big thank you and shout out to our ALC of 2025. We don't have the updated monthly market report for December yet from CAR. So this was the latest in November, where there was 6 sales in Calabasas in November. Existing median price was 3.03 million, which was up 92.9% from last year. That's insane. Active listings in Calabasas, 55. That was down 1.8%. Median days on market, 20. Sale to list price, 96.8%. And percentage of active listings with reduced prices, 32.7. And if you go on the CAR website, you'll be able to get those. Again, thank you so much to Debbie and Ashley for First Pacific Escrow. I'm so excited to have them back. We opened 10 escrows in December. So thank you all for your trust and your support in them and our office. And then we already spoke to Andres. Happy birthday to all the Jan babies. Woohoo! Enjoy your beautiful birthday month. And then thank you all for, our anniversary, the people that have been with us for a long time. So we have Omid, 11 years with Keller Williams. Holy shadizzles. Thank you, Omid, for your service and your commitment and dedication to the success of our office. Yeah, love you and appreciate you. Steve and Jacobus and Mike, Phyllis, all been with us for, Steve was 10, Jacobus was 8, Mike 8, Phyllis 8, just amazing. And then we have Ida, Lauren, Nikki and Rob, and then Dejan, Katie, Mika, Jacqueline, and Cameron. We just appreciate you all. And then look at, we had a bunch of closings in December. So congratulations to each and every one of you, for our December closings. I know I'm trying to get you all out of here. I know we have a quick update with Louisa. So who is our amazing ATL and productivity coach. She was on a couple Zooms this morning. So she's going to just go through and highlight some of the things that she wanted to share with you. Louisa, are you still here?
Yes, I am. Good morning. Happy New Year. Happy Tuesday. We still have power. So woohoo. So if I get cut off, sorry. That means they cut my power off. So yeah, so just like what Stephanie mentioned, I was with this morning. I attended 2 webinars in regards to the wildfire disaster relief webinar for small businesses and also nonprofit. There's so many what do you call it? Just so much, right? That they went through. I sent Stephanie all the list, but I didn't know that we have also another list. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna try to cross what do you call that? Not cross qualify. Yeah, just to see if you guys have if we have doubles. But basically there was like 8 parts of the governments that's in the California and LA that met this morning. And so very first thing that I want to let you guys know, Andres actually pointed it out today about fraud. Please make sure to tell your people that a bank will not call them in regards to any type of grants or loans. Okay. And so so do not even talk to them. So like I said, there was a lot. So, but I'm gonna go ahead and point out these couple ones. So there is an SBA loans. Hold on, go back, Stephanie. So there is an SBA loans. There are 3 types of loans, and it's not just for small businesses and nonprofits. So the home disaster loan is actually for both owners and renters. So this is probably something that we can reach out to our clients about in regards to rebuilding other than the FHA. And then also there is a FEMA loans, all right, FEMA grants that California and LA is actually giving to them. So let them know that they can simultaneously apply all they what they want them to do is just apply. And if they don't need the home disaster loan, right, if the FEMA loan is enough, then that's okay. They can go ahead and say no to it later on, but they want them to apply. So 3 loans right now is the home disaster loan for both owners and renters. It is for real estate. So if they burn down the home, up to 500,000. And then if it's personal properties, anything that's uninsured, personal property in the home is up to 100,000. The rate is very low. It starts at 2.563%. Okay, so again, it depends on their credit and all that stuff. That is going to be, and this is up to the 30-year. The second loan is called the physical disaster loan for small businesses and nonprofits, and that's up to $2 million. And here's the eligibility. So businesses of any size and most private nonprofits can apply for the physical loan. And what it is that, okay, and then so it's up to 2 million, and the rate is going to be 4% for the physical disaster if it's a business. If they are a nonprofit, then the rate is going to be as low as 3.625%. Okay, the due date for this loan is going to be March 10, 2025. And then the deadline, and then the third loan is called the economic loan for businesses and nonprofits, and that's for capital needs and loss of revenues or no revenue at all. So it doesn't have to be that their business burnt down, but basically economic loss. So that's for any capital needs. Okay, and then so the rate for businesses for that is 4%, and then the nonprofit is 3.625, and the due date for that, the deadline for the economic injury loans is October 8th of 2025. Okay, so and then there's also so like they said, they can apply for both loan for any of these loans and also FEMA. simultaneously at the same time. They just want them to apply. Also, Red Cross is also giving free food to all of their shelters, whether they are like staying overnight at the shelter or not. And they're not asking questions. There's no IDs. There's no proof that, you know, their house burned down or they're in a disaster area or they have evacuated. They won't ask you, they won't ask them questions. So they're saying like, please let them check Red Cross to make sure like where all the shelters are, and you know, use it. And Red Cross is also starting today. They are giving financial assistance to any victims who are eligible. So remember, who are eligible. So let them know that Red Cross, if they are eligible, they will get a text from Red Cross, which is not it's not fraud. So Red Cross already said, and we know they're gonna think it's fraud, but it's really so basically they have checked out 17,000 victims that might be able to get all of this financial aid. So if your clients or anyone you guys know think that you know, to check if they're eligible, go ahead and have them call 1-800 Red Cross. Okay. I mean, there's like so much, guys. And then the nonprofit one actually gave, so the nonprofit one, I will give you guys a list, because there's like doctors, there's like therapists, there's dentists that are giving free services for any victims that needs it. So there were just so many information that they were giving us. So what they're going to do is that they're going to compile a list. So once they send that out to us, I will go ahead and send that over to Stephanie and the office so that you guys will have that. So that could be something that we can give to our clients as well. And then same thing with this. So you guys, I'm going to put it on the chat, this website. And this, they will actually, which is economicalliance.org, and they will actually update the list. So if you guys, you know, whether, you know, maybe we're taking too long and you guys don't want to wait for an updated list, you guys can go to this website, and then they're going to update all the lists. Like every link that they talked about today is going to be on that list. So they have like they also have like Jewish, what was it? There was like so many. Also, so they're going to update that. They're going to update like all the lists, and then also check all the shelters. They're also having, there was another one. There's also the FEMA LAEDC is also there. Oh, and then regarding taxes. So let me just tell you guys. So yeah, so, oh, and there's also 4 types of grants, which I forgot to forward Stephanie, but there's 4 types of grants with SBA right now. So there's the Inclusive Action Relief Fund for outdoor workers. So basically anyone that was, you know, impacted by the LA wildfires, including street vendors, landscapers, and recyclers, they're offering them a $500 direct cash assistance. There's a simple application on sba.gov. There's also the Pay Small Business Grant Program. So that is available to any small businesses located within the unincorporated areas of LA County, which is District 1. And then the grants can be used to cover payroll, rent, working capital, and inventory. Okay, and then there's also the California State Relief, which is so the California Department of Tax and Fee Administration has extended the January 31st, 2025 sales and use tax filing deadline for LA County taxpayers until April 30th. And this extension only applies to returns and payments due on or before January 31st of 2025. So let them know that. And then the last grant is called Lift Fund Business Relief Grant, and that is up to $5,000 to help rebuild and restore operations. So that's pretty much it. We will compile all of this list and send it over to you guys. But yeah, there's like a lot of help going on right now in regards to like different sections of the LA County and California, which is good.
Yeah.
And that's that.
Thank you so much, Louisa. Thank you all for hanging on. We will be updating our resource guide. Again, you all have the link to, send out that information to your clients. You guys can rip off and duplicate whatever you want. And then also, as a reminder, we are accepting donations at the office as well for people and for firefighters. So that list was included in yesterday's email as well. So with that said, I love you all. I'm just so grateful for each and every one of you. And if there's anything that you feel that we need to share with people, just reach out to us and let us know. Glad you're all safe, and wishing you a powerful and positive day. Mwah!
Thank you, Steph.
You're welcome. Thank you, hon.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Stephanie.
Thank you.
Stay safe out there.
Mwah, bye.